Coming up next is Dr. Kimberly Taylor. Here's your chance to talk about what matters to you. Although you will receive helpful advice from Dr. Taylor, remember, this is not to be construed as a form of psychotherapy, diagnosis, or treatment, and cannot replace a therapeutic relationship with a mental health professional. You can reach Dr. Taylor by calling 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290. You can also listen live on the internet at drkimtaylorshow.com. So here now is Dr. Kimberly Taylor.
Today I'm asking the question, are you trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage? Are you wishing for a change yet really unable to hold yourself to it? Or does your mind tend to play games with you and skew reality so that you continue to sabotage your best efforts to try to create the change that you say that you do want? Now, as a therapist, I've heard all of the wants. I want to lose weight. I want to exercise and be healthy. I want to be less stressed. I want to stop drinking. I want a new job, a new relationship. I want a divorce. I want a new career. I want a new life. And of course, I've heard a lot of the excuses too, like, I'll start tomorrow. I don't have time. I don't have what it takes to succeed. Some people ask, do I have to do it every day? What if I fail? Or nothing ever works out for me. People are untrustworthy and the whole world is against me. So how many times have you procrastinated on that new or now perhaps old project that you have going? Either thinking things are going to miraculously change by doing nothing, or waiting just a little bit longer, hoping that somehow by magic that's going to turn out right. And chances are when you have one excuse that gets removed, there's going to be another one that quickly comes in to take its place. So what gives? Why do we sabotage ourselves? Why do we stop doing those things that we know are good for us? It's true that we make excuses to avoid unpleasant things, but the human mind is very complex, and we just as often make excuses because we want something so much that it almost hurts. It's as if there is another force that takes over our mind and sabotages our best intentions. Are you your own worst enemy? Is this happening to you? Well, if it is, and if you feel like you might be trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage, I want you to stop procrastinating and call in today. I am going to be here with my guest, Dave Frisili, and he is a natural-born motivator and inspirational coach. We're going to be talking about the whys and the how-come of self-sabotage behaviors, and we're going to help you to get out of your own way. There are infinite reasons why we make excuses not to do what's important to us. And sometimes, as I said, it seems the more important something is, the more likely it is that we will resist it. So listen in, and as we look behind the surface level and get to the real reasons and then the solutions to help you to move forward. So you can call in with your questions for the next hour at 564-1290 or 866-564-1290. You can also send me a question by email. Just go to Dr. Kim at drkimtaylorshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break here, so stay with me, and I will be right back with my guest. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290.
You are listening to Dr. Kimberly Taylor. You can reach her by calling 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290.
Today we're talking about how we sabotage our best efforts to create the life that we always say that we want. So I am here now with my guest, Dave Frisili, and he is a holistic health practitioner and a certified personal trainer. He's also the owner of Holistic Health and Fitness. So welcome back to the program, Dave.
Hi, how are you, Dr. Kim?
I'm great. We really need to get to the root of this because this is a problem for a lot of people. So let's start out by telling us what exactly happens so that we continue to sabotage our best efforts. What's going on?
So, and it doesn't really matter what the issue is that you're sabotaging. The first and foremost, the thing that's critically important is to understand really how your mind works. So we have to differentiate something first and foremost, is that your brain is an instrument. It's the actual organ that's inside your head. And even though that helps with thought, it is actually just an instrument for controlling bodily functions. So there's two things that you're really thinking with, but really what you're using is your consciousness and your subconsciousness. So when we're looking at, a lot of people say, oh, it's in my head. Well, in a sense it is, but not really. It's throughout your entire beingness, and that is your consciousness. So what is actually programming you or having you make these sabotaging efforts and not moving forward? Well, it's really simple, and it's slippery at the same time, and that's this. Through our life experiences, since we were born, and if you talk to some people, we'll even go all the way back to in utero, so before when you were just a fetus, and you're receiving information from your mom and actually what your mom is experiencing. So there's that relationship that you're getting all these inputs into as you're developing as a fetus. And this starts to give you a pathway or a set of what we call habits, habitual ways of thinking, which we then define as a paradigm, which is exactly that, a habit, a set of habits of thoughts, of how you start placing things in their order so that you can make judgments throughout your life. And then as you grow through adolescence, you're very much exposed to how your parents are, your lifestyle in the family that you grow up in, the schools, the experiences that you have, the friends and the family that you have, the experiences. This all goes into developing what you create as your belief system and your value system. And here's how it works. When a thought comes in, either someone says something to us or we have a thought on our own, based on our own concepts of what's happening in life, we are deciding at that point to believe that to be true, whether it's really true or not. So the science of it is, if a thought comes into your mind, or if someone says something to you and says, you know what, it's really hard to make money, the economy's really suffering, you know, it would be crazy to start a business right now, and that's all you've ever wanted to do. But you're allowing, in this case, or you might allow that statement from somebody from the outside to influence you, and that influence goes in, if you allow it to, into your subconscious, which is where you hold and create these paradigms, these habits of thoughts, and that is what develops what we'll call your self-image. Your self-image being who you believe yourself to be at the deepest level. So that's where you move from. Every moment of the day, it is your blueprint of who you are. And again, you're on autopilot with that. And that's a good thing if it's if it's something that helps you move into your life in a very positive way and be productive and create the things you want in life, or it will be the exact opposite, and it will hold you back from becoming anything more than that self-image is. So no matter what we talk about through the rest of this hour that we're together, I want everybody to understand that no matter what you've done in the past and where you are right now, it is because of the self-image that you hold within your self-conscious. Because your self-consciousness does not have the ability to choose whether something is good for you or bad for you. It is completely deductive in the sense that it will accept whatever you tell it to be true. And so when we want to think about changing old patterns of behavior or paradigms, we need to start thinking, I need to start now creating a new self-image of who I want to become. Okay. But until we get that new self-image into the subconscious, we'll always have the old self-conscious there pulling us back, saying, no, I don't want to go there. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not sure what that even is. I'd rather stay here, even though I'm suffering the way I am. At least I know what it is. And so it will keep pulling you back, and that's where self-sabotaging behaviors come from.
Okay, so Dave, when we do find ourselves sabotaging ourselves, it usually then, what you're saying is it starts in our head in our consciousness. And it's like a belief that we have about ourselves, and if we can be successful and happy. So what you're saying is that whatever it is that we're perceiving in our head becomes the truth for us in how we then act. So how do we work to change those beliefs?
Yeah, and again, remember that when we say in our head, and that's perfectly fine, we want to make the distinction. We need everybody to understand and grasp this, that it is not your brain that is controlling you. It is your consciousness, your beingness of who you are, which is much bigger than your brain. It's everything. So that's what we're really changing, who you truly believe yourself to be. Now, so how do you start making those changes in your life? Well, the first thing we need to do is we can notice, first of all, that we are sabotaging ourselves and admit it. That's important, okay? Because a lot of people don't even go that far. They'll just walk around saying, this is just not working for me, it's too hard, all those basic excuses that you talked about in the opening of the show. And they leave it at that in the sense they're giving their power away to say, I don't even want to think about it, it's just too hard to do it, why bother? And so they leave it at that. So the first thing we have to do is say, okay, I'm sabotaging myself. Now, let's do something to correct that so that I can actually start becoming the person that I want to become. That's the first step. The second step then is to then say, who is it that I do want to become? Whether it's saying, I want to create an amazingly healthy, firm, fit body that's going to look like this, or it's going to feel like this, or I want the most amazing relationship with my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, or with somebody new in my life, or I want a new career. But you have to get very specific as to what it is that you want, because your subconscious, again, accepts everything that you tell it as the truth. But if you don't give it exact directions as to what you're actually asking for, then it doesn't know what to do with it. It'll just say, well, I know you want to be happy. Well, what does that look like? Because happiness for one person is completely different from happiness from another. So you have to get very specific as to happiness feels like to me, and it means and it looks like this to me. And one of the best ways to do that is to truly take the time to sit down and start writing it out. Because when you truly start writing it down, you're actually triggering mechanisms within your consciousness and your actual physical brain that help you to start adapting to that new, what we'll call self-image of what you want to create. So that's the second step.
Okay. Do you mean that you need to sit down and write what the negative thoughts are as well as what the positive or the image is that you would like to move toward?
No, you don't. But here's the thing. Some people have a really hard time, especially because they feel so unworthy, of actually sitting down and saying, I would like to have this. My biggest desire is to be incredibly loving and have this amazing relationship and have this body that's this and have this amazing career. A lot of people are stuck so deeply and emotionally that they can't allow themselves to go there because they're afraid to, because they're afraid, I can't think that, because if I do and it doesn't happen, I'm going to feel more sadness and more fear and more worry. So if that's truly the case and somebody is like that in the audience, then if you're really struggling opening yourself up that way, then you can, it's not the best thing, but you can start with, well, what is it that I do want to get rid of? And then from there, you can make a list of what we'll call the negatives of your life that you want to get rid of. But as soon as you make that list, what I want you to do is now take that list and give me the exact opposite in a positive way. So if you're saying, I'm tired of being sick and feeling pain and being on medications, or not having someone in my life, or feeling sad. Okay, that's the negative aspect. Now give me the positive aspect, which is I am so happy and thrilled to have this amazing, gorgeous body that's firm and fit. I have this loving, loving man, woman in my life who loves me so deeply. And so that way we start moving towards the positive. But we want the positive statements of what it is you want to create, not what you're trying to get rid of.
So I can actually see that it's true that we sometimes make excuses to really to avoid the unpleasant things in our life. But why do we then make excuses when we want something really badly? For most people, this isn't going to make logical sense.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but actually it makes perfect sense because, and this is the fun part, it always comes back to this. You have to remember that your self-image, and again, everybody grasp this, I know this is deep. Your self-image is that blueprint of who you truly believe yourself to be. at the deepest level. And again, that is at a subconscious level. So it is always that subconscious level of who you believe yourself to be, your self-image, which controls the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. Because it is that blueprint, it doesn't want to deviate from that. Does that make sense? So even though you're now saying, the life I have right now, I don't like it, I'm not making enough money, I'm in a terrible relationship, or I don't have a relationship, or my health is suffering, and it always has, and I've never been good at anything, and et cetera, I want to change that. So you have these sparks that come to you, even in the deepest despairs of everyone's life. You still have these moments that come to you that say, you're bigger than this, you're better than this, you can be and do and have. And a lot of us just get really afraid when that happens because we're like, well, who am I to think that? It's never worked out that way in the past. That is God, your deepest level of even beyond your self-conscious, your self-image. That is beyond that, saying, you're more than this. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to tell you you're more than this if you'll start listening and having some hope. And what we want to do then is start saying, what is it that we truly want? Mm-hmm. And then when you decide what that is the second step, as I said. You have to realize what's wrong and then let that go and say, what is it that I want to create? And it's through that what it is that I want to create that you have to start focusing on and living and breathing. And I know that's challenging for people, especially when you feel you're really down, but that is truly it. That is the whole, it's so simple, it's slippery aspect to creating anything you want in life and becoming the person you want to be. So very quickly, you can think of it this way. There's a biblical phrase that says you cannot serve two masters. This is a very perfect example of what they're talking about. You cannot have an old self-image, which is one master, which has been showing you, telling you, making you do what you do in your everyday life of who you are, and have a new self-image of what you want to become. They can't both exist in the same space. It just doesn't happen that way. You can be one or the other, but you can't serve both of those masters. So what we need to do is we have to say we want to let go of the old self-image, the old master, and we want to transcend, if I can use that biblical term, transcend into becoming the new self-image that we want to be, that we desire to be, that we know deep, deep down inside we are supposed to be. And it's very true. So we have to start gently embracing that and saying, yes, it's not just that you're deserving to have all this, because you are. Deserving almost comes with a sense of someone's giving us permission to have this. Mm-hmm. The only one that needs to give you permission is you. Mm-hmm. No one is literally stopping you from becoming who you want to be. As crazy as that sounds, your boss, your husband or your wife, or anybody you feel that you've been putting the blame on or the responsibility of holding you where you are, mm-hmm. is not true. Okay. You are the only one that controls your life, especially if you're living in America. You don't have anybody telling you not to. So as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you mm-hmm. can become anything you want in life. And hopefully that's a really joyful, happy thing.
All right. So it is sounding like you're saying that first you have to really recognize and to acknowledge the thoughts for what they are, but then second, really be willing to actively confront them and to challenge them. And really third, to be willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone and to be willing to work toward that new goal, which is in a positive way and in the image of what you want to grow into.
That is it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we are going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back to this. I'm Kimberly Taylor and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290. I am back here with my guest, Dave Fusilli, and we are talking about how we can get out of our own way and try to stop sabotaging ourselves. So, Dave, I can really hear people out there now saying, yes, that would be really nice if we could do that, but that they feel so anxious and uncomfortable about making these kinds of changes. So how can I do it without feeling like this? And there's a point that I always want to say is that you can't, that if you want to have something be different, you have to experience discomfort. So tell us a bit about your thoughts about how to help them move past this and into this new way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. So that idea that you were just talking about, the discomfort, that's all of us, none of us want to feel pain and discomfort and anxiety. But just as you were mentioning, when you change, when you start moving into a different position in life, no matter what it is, so well, oh my gosh, I'll just speak for myself. When I went to college for the first time, and I think many people can probably relate to this, there was a lot of anxiety. I was moving away from home for the first time. I was in a very strange environment, nothing that I knew about. Everything was different, and so there was this anxiety, even though I was thrilled to be going to school and getting out of my house. And it was this idea of stepping out into my independence, which was also very different because again, even though I was 18, I had lived at home, so I always had my parents there to guide and support me. And now I was stepping out of that comfort zone of who I believed myself to be, my self-image. Okay? So now I'm creating a new self-image by moving away to college. I'm literally becoming a different person by all the experiences which I know nothing about. And so my old self-image, the Dave that was living at home with mom and dad and had all that comfort and didn't have to worry about things really, when I moved out, that self-image was saying, this is completely different. Where is everybody that I know? This is unfamiliar. I don't know about this. This is kind of scary. And so that sets up doubt. Am I really going to be able to do this? Am I going to have to go back home? Am I going to fail? All that kind of stuff. That doubt that we set up or gets set up then turns into fear. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, all the what ifs. Am I going to be a failure? Oh my gosh, all this kind of stuff. And then from there, that fear actually becomes a visceral feeling, an actual feeling in your body where you feel anxiety. So anxiety is an actual visceral feeling that you feel in your body, and there's things that go along with that. You know, nervousness and your heart rate and cortisol spikes and all this kind of stuff. We won't have to get into the biology of it, but that's that step. So whenever there's a change in life, depending on the level of change, the bigger the level of change, the more the doubt, which then turns into fear, which then turns into a physical feeling of anxiety. Now, we don't want to feel that anxiety, but it's part of the process, as you had said. And what we want everybody to understand is that when you truly start understanding how and why this is happening, then you can say, I get why that's happening. It's not a negative thing. It's just my body, my spirit, my mind, my consciousness developing into something that it's uncomfortable with because it doesn't know it yet, but it will soon become comfortable with it. And when it starts to become comfortable, it's easier, right? You go, oh, yeah, at first it was really hard those first 3 months of college, but after that it was like every time I went home, I couldn't wait to get back. Mm-hmm. This happens with everything in life. Now, I mean, for me, again, going to summer camp when I was a little kid was incredibly just nerve-wracking for me. It scared the living hell out of me because it was like the first step away from my family, and I was a little kid, and I was around a bunch of new kids that I didn't know, and are they going to like me? And, oh, my gosh, I was the kid that sat in the corner and just shook like crazy until I got used to being there, and then, you know, after a week or two, I was up running around with everybody else. The same thing. And what about, and again, I'm speaking for myself, what about all those first dates that I went on? Completely nauseated with anxiety because I just didn't know. Does this girl like me? Oh my God, is this going to be a relationship? You want so much for something, and you already are projecting in your mind how amazing something could be, this relationship, this career, this new home, this whatever it is. And at the same time, your old self-image, that old paradigm, your belief system of who you believed yourself to be up until this point is saying, I don't know what this is like, so I'm going to keep making you feel anxious and having all this anxiety and fear because I don't know what to expect. So I'm trying to protect you, Dave, because I don't know if this girl is going to like you. What if that could be painful? I want to protect you. Don't go out on the date. Don't go to college. Don't do this. Don't do that. And it pulls us back.
Right,
and that's
don't
where
grow
then
up. Yes.
The old self-image starts giving us really, really, really good excuses and reasons why not to do it. Mm-hmm. Really good, because that's where our brain comes in and says, no, you know what, you don't really have enough time. You already got a family that you're taking care of, and you already got to do this other stuff. You really don't have the time. Or you know what, that's going to be really expensive to go take those courses. Even though it would be a good thing, you better hold off because you never know, the economy could crash again, and you need to save your money. Or, oh my gosh, well, what if you move into that new career position, and then something happens, and they don't like you, and they say, okay, here's 60 days, and you got to start finding a new job again. So the old self-image is always trying to maintain the status quo, and that status quo is who you are right now, how you feel about yourself, the body that you're living in, the career that you have, the relationships that you have, the amount of money that you make, you name it. If you look at every part of your life and literally wrote it down on paper, you would literally be showing exactly what you believe yourself to be at every level.
And
so if you're only making...
Dave, some of these things can be in your own mind, and some of them you can perceive that other people think these things about you. So you're really asking us to create our own image and to work in that process instead of trying to just be a version of what we think that everybody else needs us to be.
Yes, unbelievably true, because remember, I'm getting really excited, sorry. But this happens. You are here to be you. You're not here to be a version of what somebody wants for you. And as soon as you start realizing the power that you actually have to create what you want in life, you will never look to anybody else to ask, should I do this or should I do that? You will be in a position of self-knowing and confidence of saying, this is what I want to create for me. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about this because it's coming from inside you. You're here to live your life without hurting anybody else in the process and not being a version of what somebody else wants for you. Life is about your self-expression, not someone else's. And again, no one else can tell you what that expression looks like because it comes from inside you. My parents, not that they did, but my parents could have said, because my dad was a pharmacist, we want you to be a doctor. It's in your blood. But it doesn't matter, and we hear this all the time, right? Men go out and become doctors and lawyers and architects because it's what their parents wanted from them, because they had a big challenge saying, it's not who I truly want to be, so I'll do what my elders are telling me would be best for me. And they let go of their self-power. You can't let go of your self-power because it's all that you are. So giving up that to someone else or something else is the wrong road to be on. And again, that something else, if you're giving up your self-power to something else, is giving up your power to sabotaging behaviors, or let's say you have any kind of we can call it an addiction. If you're addicted to eating chocolate or smoking cigarettes or alcohol or sex, or it doesn't matter what it is, but if there is something in your life that is driving you and you feel like you have no control over it, then you are giving your power away to that, whatever that is, whether it's a person or a something. And you need to reclaim that power because that's who you truly are. You are that power and that substance.
So when we're talking about this, it's really that the secret about who is sabotaging your life is really your own mind and your own consciousness here. And it's that negative voice inside your head that keeps playing nonstop on that negative feedback loop over and over again. So we really need to be able to find the way to change that and have a different feedback loop going on in our head.
Yes, and again, and you'll always hear this. This is one of my things, and this came from my algebra teacher, Mr. Landers. It's so simple, it's slippery. It is not the sequence of how to go about creating who you want to become in life is simple. It truly, truly is. We, as you've mentioned before, we do have to get out of our own way. We first have to understand that we do have all the power in the world, in the universe, to create what we want and to become the person we want. We are actually this power. Whether we already believe it or not, you're already using it to become the person you've already become. So we do have to understand, again, it's the self-image that's controlling us. It's what's leading our way. And to change anything we want in life, we have to change the self-image. So there's a doctor, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who stated, we act, behave, and feel according to what we consider our self-image to be, and we do not deviate from this pattern. So that's everything that we've been talking about. The self-image is that autopilot. Now, some people in the audience might be saying, well, if that's really the case, I have no control over it because it's this autopilot thing that is just doing it on itself, and I have no control over that. You created that autopilot. You created the self-image by what you decided to believe to be true.
And so you can change it.
And you can change it the same exact way. And that's the power that you have.
Okay.
That's what you have to start grasping, is no matter who or where you are in life, it doesn't matter how, if you want to say how low you are right now, it does not matter. You can change how you feel about yourself. As challenging as that may sound, you can begin to change how you believe yourself to be. And as you continuously do this, you have to repeat this, repetition, as my French teacher says. You repeat and repeat and repeat. And through that repetition, you will begin to recondition your conscious and subconscious mind to believe and know that this is now who you are, this new transcended state of being. And that will be your new self-image. And you will grow into that, just like a new set of clothes. You will grow into that. But we have to start anchoring it in. So you can call it, in the best way, the most positive way, you can call it brainwashing.
Well, we are going to come back and we're going to talk about how we can create that new image of yourself and one that is healthier and happier. And we'll be right back after the break. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290. I'm here with Dave Frizzilli, and we're talking about how to stop sabotaging ourselves. So, Dave, we need to be able to use some kind of a filter. So when those negative thoughts start to come back in, we need to be able to switch those to our positive way of thinking. So, is there a filter that we can use, like that it might be something like you have to think about everything you say, everything you do, and everything you think, and put it through a filter about, is this helping me or does this hurt me to reach my goal?
Mm-hmm. So again, the first thing everybody has to understand is when everything that you're experiencing right now is going through the filter of your self-image. This is how simple it is, but again, slippery. Really start understanding that, because once you start doing that, then you can say, I'm going to start creating a new self-image, which will be my new filter of how I see the world. So if you change your mind, you will change how you perceive everything in your world. That filtration system is critically important to how you actually feel who you are. Change that self-image, and you'll change your view. You're literally changing your point of view. Now, what we like to say is just become that which you desire to be. Mm-hmm. Again, you're changing your new self-image. You had asked a question when we were talking offline about people wanting to be a writer, but they couldn't find the time to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all it comes down to is if you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a musician, then play your instrument. If you want to be a singer, sing. Not finding the time or having a reason why you can't do something is only you holding yourself back for whatever that concern is, because you're saying, I want to move up into new, higher, or transcendent level of consciousness, but the old self-image, the old paradigms are saying, no, I'm not sure about that. I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable because I don't know how that's going to work out for me. And so then it comes up with all these great excuses. I don't have enough time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those old paradigms, and you can trust me, will get more comfortable, and you'll actually change. So what we want to do is, not only do we want to let go of the old self-image, but we also want to replace it with the new self-image, because they say the universe abhors a vacuum. So if you take and get rid of your old self-image, but there's nothing else in there, it will immediately start filling it in with probably more negative self-image, because that's what it used to know. So we always want to replace. And the great thing about it is it's not really a matter of getting rid of the old and putting in a new. As you develop the new self-image, the old self-image just dissolves away. So it's not like you're actually having to work at getting rid of it. All you focus on is the new self-image. You focus on the feelings of what it is already feeling like to be happy, healthy, in an amazing relationship, loving yourself, whatever it is that you're trying to create, a better career. Seeing yourself in that is how you are replacing that. And you're doing that by filling your subconscious with the feelings of what it feels like to already be happy, healthy, wealthy, in an amazing relationship. And then the self-image again, because it has no way of determining good, bad, or indifferent. It just accepts what you give it.
Mm-hmm.
It can only serve one master. And your subconscious can only serve the master that you consistently give it. And if you can give it those thoughts with a lot of emotion, it will grab that even more. That's the fertilizer to growing that even faster and faster.
And Dave, this is going to take a lot of practice, and it's going to take about 30 to 40 days for any kind of habit to change.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a last question that I'd like to go to, and that in order for us to really be able to receive this new image of ourselves and to believe in ourselves and to believe that we can be happy and successful and all of those things that you just talked about, what is it that we need to do first to make room for that to happen? Because there's this whole thing about people feeling like they're not good enough, or that if they're not seeing what they have and they're not grateful for that it's never going to be enough for them. So can you speak to that just in the last few minutes that we have here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when you can be brave enough and step into finding the joy of being your authentic self, which is so, so important, you will then start seeing your world open up to so much more. Things begin to flow. So this idea of feeling worthy is true. But we want to go deeper than that. It's a knowing of who you truly are. You are this amazing, powerful beingness. We can call you God if you're willing to accept that, and I hope you would be. You are the universal consciousness expressing itself in whatever form you decide to tell it to express. Again, your self-image. So if you can be brave enough and step into being your authentic self, and that authentic self means when you really know who you are and you're living that life that you know is your life, not someone else's, and you don't feel like you're being pushed down in a way. Your authentic self is how you truly express yourself in the most loving, giving, compassionate, healthy, well-being way. So I'll speak for myself. I spent most of my life trying to prove how much I knew, how good I was, and that I wasn't being fun and the silly, goofy guy that I really am, because I am. I'm a really silly, goofy guy. And my friends and my families would say, just be you, David. Everyone will see you in this new light. And I was so afraid because I was so concerned about being professional. I figured I had to be really professional and starchy and prove that I knew what I wanted or knew what I knew in what I was doing, so people would, come to me and ask me for my advice and work with me. And what I was doing was I was fighting against my authentic self of this really loving, happy kid, in a sense. And it was causing this internal conflict. So my outside world it's such a struggle to live in, and I didn't feel like I belonged in my body and in this world that I was living. But once I finally let go of that and I said, well, what the hell, I'm just going to go for it, and no matter what, I'm going to go just be this happy, fun guy and see what happens. My business started to improve. My finances got better. My relationships became more loving and open. I began to trust my authentic self, my beingness of who I truly want to be and feel comfortable being. And that was incredibly empowering. And that's what lies for everybody, because if you can truly be that person without the fear, without the doubt, without the anger and the bitterness and the jealousy, you let go of all
jelly
that.
Too.
Yes, yeah, jelly too. Then you start becoming this beautiful person, and you radiate it, and people come to you and they say, wow, oh my gosh, this is the person that we've always wanted you to be. We've always saw this in you. And that's when you make these big changes in your life, because what you're truly doing is you're truly saying, I love who I am. And that's what's most important. There is nothing more important than feeling good. And the feeling good has to come from feeling good about yourself. And at the deepest level, it's really loving yourself at a level that's beyond compare. It's not an egotistical, narcissistic way. It's loving yourself so deeply because you know who you truly are and you're living the life that you truly feel you're meant to live.
So through all of this, Dave, what you're saying is that we have to be aware, to be able to deconstruct the obstacles that get in our own way, and that's the old self-image, and to really replace that with a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to first decide what it is that we want,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have to begin to visualize that and plan for that and see ourselves doing that and act as if we are already there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were talking about the third one is we really need to begin to feel grateful for what you have now and for what is coming to you while you're moving through this.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is the third key. You have to be so grateful for, even if what you think you have right now is not so much, trust me, you have a lot going for you. There's a lot of people that are always worse off. You start to really feel grateful for what you have, and I know that can be challenging, but it's true. Because the more grateful you can be for what you have right now, the more your subconscious, which is universal intelligence, which is God, will say, look, they're showing us that they're grateful. He's showing us he's grateful for what he has. I'm going to give him more to be grateful for. And now, because you're conditioning your self-conscious or subconsciousness with this new self-image, they'll say that we can start sending him stuff that's in line with what he wants to become. So, because he's showing us he wants to be more grateful, because he's grateful for what he has. And that's how things start moving towards you. And you start seeing this in everything in life. Those little moments all add up to being grateful. And then sooner than later, you realize that you're literally on this path to becoming the person you want, and you get really excited about it.
So the more grateful that you can become and the more that you see to be grateful for, that the feeling of being not enough or not having enough goes down in direct proportion.
It has to, because you can't serve two masters.
Because you can't put two thoughts in your head at the same time.
That's right.
And
Your
shucks, I
subconscious
always thought
can't
that I
deal
could
with
do
you.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing you can't really multitask on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's no need to. All you want to be is one amazing, grateful, loving, happy, healthy, wealthy beingness that gets to share their life with everybody else. Because when you're doing what you truly love to do and you're being the person you truly love to be, you want to share that with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I do what I do.
So tell us how people can reach you.
Okay. So you can go to the website, www.holistichealth-fitness.com. You can also call me on 541-941-8800. And if you go to the website, you can certainly email me. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So I'm all over.
You're
I do
all
workshops, I do seminars, I do radio shows. I love to come talk to people. If you have a group and you want to have me come over, I'd love to do that, or you can come see me.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show again, and I hope in the future that we can do this again. It was great to have you in the past. It was great this time, and thanks once more for being here.
All right, I love you.
Thank you. Love you too. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290. I really hope that today you have heard some ideas about how to stop this whole process of trying to sabotage yourself and to really start working towards creating the change that you would like and how you would like to see yourself in your own life. You have to be willing to challenge those old beliefs and to really pull them out, let them see the light of day, and be willing to create a new self-image of what you want and what's true for you today. So leave the past in the past. And then the work is really in starting to filter everything you do, everything you say, and everything you think through a new filter of asking yourself, is this helping me or is it hurting me? Is it bringing me closer to my goal? And if not, then what must I do to make that happen? And you have to be willing to push yourself past your fears. What I do know is that by doing this, you're going to be able to really create a more loving relationship with yourself, and one in which you're going to feel more supported, more cared about, so that you really can go out there to achieve your dreams. What I know for myself is that making changes has always been full of really uncomfortable feelings. And I know that each and every time that I set a goal and try to do something different, there's always that stirring of anxious feelings inside and the rumblings of all of those past fears. And this is just part of the process and something I have to reckon with each and every time before I can really move forward to reach my goals. And it's as if all those old fears come into play once more, and each one needs to be readdressed and faced down another time, so that ultimately it makes the achieving of the goal all the more satisfying. So don't give up on your dream, and let your next step get you closer to what really works for you. I want to thank you for being here, and to join me next week also, Thursday between 2 and 3. I also want to let you know that I'll be taking phone calls on Sunday, and you can go to my website at drkimtaylorshow.com. Meanwhile, have a great week, and don't forget, nobody else has to change in order for you to get better. So if you're the one that's unhappy, you be willing to change. I'll be here next Thursday helping you to create that change that you say that you want. See you then.